Good evening to you. You guys haven't seen me a little bit because I got really sick about 10 days ago. Then I got viral laryngitis. Left me without a voice for 4 days, and now this is what I've got. This is I think I sound just as bad as last time you heard from me. And I might sound as bad as Purdue is playing right now. I've got a bunch of thoughts on what we saw tonight and why this feels so foreign to Purdue fans and alums. And I'm going to talk about all of it, but I'll struggle through it. And you're going to have to struggle listening to my voice too. Hopefully it clears up a little bit, kind of comes and goes. You can hear it. Sounds kind of getting in a groove right now, but but before I get into anything, let me thank our sponsors. Thanks to Home Field Apparel. Head over to homefieldapparel.com. Enter Boiled25 at checkout. Get 15% off. Check out their ringside stuff. The hockey jerseys are pretty cool. And, of course, they've got a lot of good sweatshirts and T-shirts and hats. The Platinum Pack's still great. Homefieldapparel.com. And also, when you're at Mackey Arena, and maybe you've yelled to the point where you sound like Boiler Dowd, and you need refreshment, you should sprint towards the fire station. When you see the fire station, turn left. You'll see the blue lights. Go inside, have a pint. Maybe it can ease your vocal cords. And at the bottom of it, you get a Boiled Sports Magnet. AJ's has some of the best food and has absolutely the best people there. Burgers, beef, beer. That's AJ's. AJ's by the fire station. So, couple things that are really interesting about tonight. Number one, this February has historically been a great month for Matt Painter coach teams. His teams kind of hit their stride. They find extra gear. They get tougher. They deal with adversity well. They overcome the size of the opponent and find ways to win in February generally. And what we're seeing now is the unkindness of college basketball when things aren't going your way and when things start falling apart and showing cracks in the foundation, if you will. The idea of a big three for Purdue is a good thing, and it's something that can carry Purdue to a lot of victories. A big two cannot. And when teams take away everybody, except for the guys they simply can't take away, meaning they couldn't fully take away Braden Smith. They obviously couldn't take away TKR tonight. But Lawyer was ineffective. Heidi actually showed up, looked really good, hit some pretty big shots, and he was taken away by different means, I'd argue, at the end of the game. But Cox is met his match with Michigan State's guards tonight, and Michigan State did kind of what Wisconsin did previous game. They defined the pace, they defined the physicality, they made Purdue look out of sorts, and once Purdue was down, Purdue couldn't do much to come back. Pretty frustrating thing here for a lot of reasons. If you're wondering why you feel frustrated or why this feels so foreign, maybe the biggest one is right here. The last time Purdue lost 3 straight games was in 2019, 2020, but they actually lost 4 in that streak in that year. Something tells me Purdue might not be done with this losing streak. I don't feel good about the next game. I haven't felt good about many games recently. And Purdue, the biggest thing is not just this, the Big Ten race, like Jay alluded to during his postgame. The Big Ten race isn't the most important thing at all. We've seen Big Ten championships. We want them, want to see them. But bigger than that, the tournament seeding is getting affected with every loss. Purdue's probably on the 3 line right now. They're going to drop down to 4, I think, almost assuredly. If they lose to IU, now you're starting to flirt with the danger zone and get in a place where it's not very fun, where the matchups get really, really difficult in the NCAA tournament really, really quickly. Your gaze as a Purdue fan has to have shifted a little bit on what your goal is for the team, especially as you watch each game. I got in a mini discussion with different people in the last couple of days. Some I should have never gotten into online, telling me everything was fine. There's no big deal. What I see is Purdue, and I said this going into this 5-game stretch, Purdue needed to play really well, probably go four of five to win the Big Ten title outright. Instead, the test has failed. They have failed the test. 3 ranked teams, 3 losses in a row. This is a tough part of the season. There's no doubt about that. But that my whole point about this, if you like history, if you've been watching Purdue for a long time, Purdue generally finds a way to win games. It doesn't matter the little number behind next to a team in things like this. With Matt Painter teams, it generally doesn't matter, especially at home. And I think that game probably smarts more than any of them. You kind of expect Michigan State is an awfully tough place to play. I don't think anybody's going to take anything away from that. I don't think they're a desperate team, but they're definitely a team playing for a lot right now. They look very motivated. By the way, Wisconsin, who many Purdue fans were gobsmacked about that result, but Wisconsin's playing great basketball, and I'm the first one to take credit away from Wisconsin and not give credit to Greg Garcoach teams. But they're playing really, really well. And regardless of the reason why they're playing well, they're playing really, really well. They're not leaning on their typical bullshit tricks of beating up on teams. They're playing a really, really good offense. Speaking of really good offenses, today Michigan State did this twice, where right before the end of the first half, they just kind of took it at Purdue. Purdue could not match the stuff they were running. And then the middle of the second half, they did it again and put a lot of space on the scoreboard. And the ugly head of Purdue's poor defense reared itself again in the form of Purdue getting backdoored over and over and over. Purdue just doesn't have a defensive answer right now. Purdue's offense is inconsistent, and the reason they're in the situation they're in right now is they're just not playing well. They're not a very good team at this point. I went back, I like I said, I watched Jay's post game and I read the comments. I do not understand some of the idiocy that comes from people. I don't even know why I waded into some of that stuff. There are people that are just saying outlandish things. If you combine, granted, we have decent reach, so we get to see a lot of interesting opinions, but some of the opinions of what Purdue basketball is and what Painter does as a coach and why Purdue's in this situation, they are all over the board right now. I think the smartest thing you can do as a Purdue fan, like I said, is take a deep breath. None of this stuff's in your control. Enjoy it for what it is. This one frustrates me a lot, but the last game, to be full honest, got me to the middle. I was red hot angry, and I didn't have the post game because I had plans with my wife and another couple. We did something just to not celebrate Valentine's Day, but just to do something different. And I was not in a position where I could do a post game. Thank God, because I was mad about that one. This game, I'm a little more sober about, but the problem of losing game after game after game when you needed the games, it starts getting interesting. Purdue looks like they found water finding their level, if you will. They had a great January defensively, and it sprung them forward way up in the conference. But Purdue kind of looks like the team we thought they were back in December again, if you're being really honest. When they play a very good team, they struggle or they lose right now. When they play a team that's got experienced guards, they're in trouble. And when they play a team that's got a physical style of play and a coach that knows his way around, they know where to hit Purdue where it hurts. And we can say whatever we want. I know many of you guys are going to say really smart things like Matt Painter should be fired or Braden Smith should be benched. All those brilliant takes that I've heard this season, and I have heard those takes, by the way. I'm not making this up. But the thing that you need to look at is this team's not complete. I've been saying that for a long time. It's easy for me to go back to that right now since they're not playing well. But this team's not complete. And they show their incompleteness when they play teams that are more complete. Many of the teams Purdue's getting beaten by are not perfect by any means. But by the way, Wisconsin is up by Illinois at half, 47-41. Illinois made a bit of a game by coming back. Wisconsin was up pretty big a couple minutes ago. But I don't know. I lost my train of thought. I'm going to look at the box score real quickly, and then I'll check your comments. Thanks to everybody for your patience with my voice. Hopefully you can deal with it. And hopefully, honestly, I'm just on a ride. And whatever God's timing is for me to get a healthy voice, I would appreciate it being sooner than later, but I literally can't do anything. I hate tea. And I've been drinking hot tea with honey in it every day, at least 1 or 2 cups, just trying to get myself back up to health. I do not feel poorly. I just sound awful. And the hard thing is, number one, I kind of jones for getting on here and talking to you guys, especially after a game. But also I work remotely. I did it before it was cool. And a big part of my work is getting on the phone and talking to people. And that's been rough too. So, but I do apologize for having to deal with this. And hopefully I'll start sounding beautiful and dulcet toned as you're used to, but probably not. All right, let's look at the box score. Purdue loses 75-66. They fall to 11-5 in the conference. I think 4 losses will win the conference. I don't think that's much of a big statement, but here's the wild thing. Michigan State and Michigan both have a ton of tough games ahead. Purdue's not really out of the conference title running because of the nature of those 2 teams' schedules. They've got some meat left on the bone here. But like I said, I don't think Purdue's done losing. And it's just a gut feeling more than anything. I don't feel good about feeling that way, but maybe you share the same sentiment. Maybe you don't. Really doesn't matter. And my gut feelings don't matter. They're not, I'm not going to die on the hill saying they're definitely going to lose another game here, but I just don't feel good about the next one. Purdue falls to 19-8 on the season. And it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a struggle if you look getting to certain benchmarks before the tournament. They're running out of games. That's the most difficult thing. Trey Goffman-Wren leads everybody for Purdue, 24 points on 6-7 shooting. Braden Smith scores 17 points, deals out 8 assists, but the most costly thing, 6 turnovers, and they hurt a lot. A lot of those turnovers came at key stanzas, key moments, and Michigan State made Purdue pay. Behind them, the drop-off is noteworthy. Cam Heide had 6 points, went 2 for 3 from deep. But the toughest thing is Lawyer only scoring 8 points, he had 5 boards and 5 assists. Simply, we said it before Purdue started hitting the skids. We were saying we need to see more from the bench, and it felt like Purdue was trending the right way, where the bench might come along. Now we need more from a third starter. You just have to have more. You can't just have 2 guys carrying the water. It's not going to work. It's just not going to work. And some things that are kind of interesting is that where Purdue dictated the physicality of games, especially last year, they didn't foul a lot. They got fouled a lot because of the physicality of Zach Edey. Now Purdue's lack of size is hurting them this year, and foul trouble seems to come up every game. That today it was first half for TKR. He had 2 and had to come out of the game early, and that hurt Purdue. The end of the first half hurt Purdue. Off the bench, though, after Heide, something that was very interesting. Will Berg got in the game today, I think, just to deal with some of Michigan State's size. So I'm going to jump over to where you guys are here, hear what you have to say. A lot of people are on. Really appreciate it. Again, I apologize for my voice. Doing everything I can to try to get it right. I actually think I sound better than I did when I started. I think I was almost inaudible when I got on, and it kind of warms up, but I do apologize. All right, Adam Pease here. How are you? Nate Cunningham says, hope you get to feeling better soon. I don't feel bad. I just sound awful. Honestly, I do not feel bad. If I felt close to as bad as I sound, I mean, I'd be putting myself into the ER, but that's not the case. Alpaca Herd says, boiled down sickness and Purdue failure has a positive correlation. I wish I could say that as I get healthier, Purdue's going to get healthier on the court. I just don't know if I feel that way right now. I think the biggest thing is the strength of Purdue's schedule, and Purdue just not being able to right now play with better teams, higher caliber teams. 3 ranked teams in a row, 3 straight losses. Now you get to play IU, but it's at IU. Assembly Hall is a tough place to play. I don't care who you are. You got to be mentally tough. You got to disdain losing. Right now, especially after that Wisconsin game, that was the thing I struggled with more than anything. You come off the Michigan loss, and they didn't look like a team that was just totally pissed off. And so now you've got to be double, triply pissed We'll see. See what the team's made of. But yeah, this I don't want to say change my perspective on what I think of the season. It's more like how I've been able to deal with it all season. I've been able to kind of grin and bear it because of what happened last year. And 3 straight losses, like I said, you're going back to 2019, 2020. It's very unusual water for Purdue fans, but it's not isolated to Purdue. Hopefully understand that. It's very easy to think you're the only team that goes through things like that when it's happening to your team. Here's a little perspective. A year ago, Michigan State lost their 3rd straight to a team called Purdue, who was number 2 in the nation, like right around this week last year. Kansas, who has been a very, very good team. I don't know how many they've lost in a row, but they are struggling as a team. They're right now down by 16 on BYU in the first half. They are plummeting out. They're going to be out of the top 25 soon. They're 23 right now. After this loss at BYU, I would bet they'll fall out of the top 25. My whole point is good programs, good teams lose. Good teams go through long losing streaks. UConn has had multiple 2- and 3-game losing streaks this season. Purdue is not UConn. I am aware. I am aware that they beat Purdue in the national championship, but I also know that UConn 2 seasons ago lost 3 straight in January. It's not fun at all. The big thing you want for your team, your favorite team, when they lose games like this, you want the juice to be worth the squeeze. You want to say, okay, they learned this. They took this away. And I think there's plenty of time to learn things. The problem is, I just think some things, and these are the things I was saying back in December, I will say it again, that some of the things Purdue needs to learn are really about time, about guys getting mature, about guys taking their lumps, about guys going through stuff that they couldn't go through otherwise, just being on this team in this situation with these teammates. Because some of the things are out of Purdue's control. Just personnel things are out of their control. And you cannot make that jump. So then you have to say, as a Purdue fan, what are the goals for the season now? That's up to you to decide what you want to see and what you would call a successful season. Maybe we'll dig into that a little deeper later this week. Jeff Nestor says, unfortunately, at least 2 more losses to come in regular season. I tend to agree, Jeff. Daniel Pritchett says, last 2 games have been blamable on the refs. I don't agree. But we played bad. Yeah, I don't think they're blamable on the refs. I don't agree with that. I think the officials absolutely stink. And if you don't think that I think officials stink, you haven't been paying attention to me very long. I don't think this game was blamable on the refs. I think Cam Heidi's last 2 fouls were absurd. Do I think Purdue would have won if Cam Heidi would have stayed in the game? Not really. It seemed like Michigan State had an answer for whatever Purdue was going to put on them at the end of the game. A lot of momentum. They were dialed in at the end of the game. Purdue was not. I don't know how else we can see that. I wouldn't put it at the feet of the refs at all. Nate Cunningham says, can't remember what losing 3 crucial games in a row and 8 losses has felt like a long time. There's your answer, though, that 2019, 2020. And it does feel weird. That was a bad season. That's the year of COVID. That's the year that everything was canceled and Purdue was not going to make the tournament. I think they were 16-15, if I remember correctly. And I do not have that written down. But, yeah, they were not a very good team that year. They were struggling. So, yeah, this is weird stuff. This team is not as bad as that team by any means. In fact, this team's got some pretty damn good moving parts. We all know that. You can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. That's not what I'm saying. But it is unusual. It is flat out unusual to have this feeling in February. Brian T says, if I can be optimistic, we need Cam and Miles to start to get the confidence. And despite losses, they seem to have made some improvements over the last 3 couple games. Yeah, I agree. Yeah, Cam looked really good. He was called upon today because of, number one, Colvin got knocked out by a shoulder that was, imagine, if you thought that was a foul, you're incorrect because you imagine that's one of those officiating things where you'd say, that was really horrible. And it was. The Michigan State player set a pick, put his shoulders into Colvin's orbital. I don't think there was a whistle, and there was no review either, which is fun. And Colvin, I believe, was concussed. That's what it looked like to me. He's been playing pretty well. Heidi played very importantly better because he had a little bit of his confidence, a little bit of a stroke. That was good to see. So, yeah. Those two guys are kind of the pivotal parts. Those are the one thing, if you could say, some Purdue could get better at this year and it could play well in the tournament, in the postseason, it would be Heidi and Colvin both playing well. So that's possible to happen. Boiler Bugle says the defense is woof. Agreed. Pump faking, makeable shots, woof. Bad foul calls, woof. Yeah, there's a lot of things here that are just not good or fun to watch at all. But I think the defense is the one that bothers me more than anything right now. Purdue's defense is crap. And they showed it versus Wisconsin. That 20 of 22 stat inside the 3-point line is one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. Tonight, the getting backdoored over and over is direct correlation with poor defense. So that stuff's hard for me to take, harder than anything else. IC says, not why we lost, but these refs have to get better. Some of these calls are a joke. They're not going to get better. And if you're expecting them to get better, you haven't been paying attention to college basketball for much of your life. I don't know how old you are, IC. I'm 49. I've been watching college basketball since I was a wee lad. And I can tell you, this shit it's here to stay. It's not going to change. It's baked in. I always say that. It's the worst thing about college basketball. It's the reason my dad doesn't like college basketball. It's not going anywhere. It's not going to get any better. And so you have to be better than the position where you need a call at the end of the game. That's what Michigan State was, right? They were better than Purdue to the point where one possession didn't matter or a bad call didn't matter or whatever, right? They dictated the end of the game and they put it out by 10 points. I always say 10 points is a nice cushion because even with a couple questionable calls, she'll be all right. But that's not going to change. Let's see. Indian Colorado says, boiler up, everybody. Love these guys regardless. Yeah, I love this team. And I want to see them play like they were in January because that was so much fun, so unexpected. But there's plenty. Here's the thing, as a Purdue fan, you still should have plenty to root for. I think these guys are likable. I know there was somebody in comments, game or two ago, said they found this team hard to root for. Again, I'm telling you, we hear every comment because we have a decent amount of reach. I disagree with that idea altogether. I think these are very likable guys. I think this team's very likable. I love the coaching staff, and I'm not going anywhere. That's for sure. And I doubt you are if you're here watching this podcast. But people are weird. I mean, they want to bail when things get a little tough. Come on, where are you going to go? Like for me, like I've tried the thing where I adopt a team. I don't know about you. If like Purdue's really bad, which has happened in the last 15 years, I try to adopt a team during tournament time. I can't do it. I can't get behind them. I can't adopt a team that, one of my family members went to. I don't have anything else. I ride or die with this squad. So yeah, I like these guys. And if I don't like them, if they were a bunch of malcontents, I'd tell you what I'd think about them, but that's not the case with this team. It's just not, they're just not as good as I was hoping they'd be at this point. Russell Collins says they kept scoring with the shot clock under 5. Let's see. I don't know what that means. Frail Hammer says Painter earns his money. Next year is always the thought. Yeah, I think a lot of you guys have the same thought together that it really stinks to say you write off a year. And I never said write off a year. What I said is kind of enjoy this year for what it is. And I think many of you would say, there's too many things. You're giving away prime years with Fletch and Smith and TKR. Nobody's giving anything away. I think this is part of the process. I think that has to be your perspective. It's part of the process. The team is just not what we had hoped they would be this year, right? For many reasons. And we're not going to make excuses. Let's see. MSP 138 says, seemed like the coaches gave up on Burgess pretty quick tonight. I think there are things they're looking for from Burgess. And when he doesn't show them quickly, the hook is a little short, right? And we've seen this before. It's not just limited to Raleigh, right? My guess is they're looking for specific things when he goes in the game. And it could be that Michigan State's physicality was so tough for him to match up with. I mean, Michigan State had some big guys, but this is more like it used to be. before Edie. When Purdue played Michigan State, they just beat up on Purdue. I mean, every high screen, a Michigan State dude was coming across with his elbows high. And they were making Purdue feel those picks, and they were not setting their feet. That's the other thing. The inability where TKR gets called for a moving screen or Heidi gets called for a moving screen. And then the other end of the court, a team like Michigan State, those guys never set their feet on on screens. That type of shit annoys me. If you're going to say one thing bothers me about officiating, that specifically bothers me because Purdue gets dinged on that all the time. TKR gets dinged like on moving screens more than anybody. Michigan State has been making their living on that for as long as Izzo's been there. And they're always physical. They're always big. Those guys are not the most skilled guys generally. They're bigs. But the other thing, this is kind of like turnabout is fair play. And Purdue had the baddest dude in America for many years. And we're back to the point where you're overmatched a little physically. It's not new. Jerry Huff says the first experiment is over. I don't think it's over, Jerry. I just think he's playing a team tonight that's very, very good and very physical. Who's Johnny? I missed that one. Says, I don't agree with that either. It says, I'm afraid they might not win another. I don't agree with that at all. So that's okay. This is the whole thing. It's never as good or as bad as it seems. Losing 3 straight sucks. No doubt. By the way, Kansas is down by 20 against BYU. At BYU, down by 20. I think Kansas was as high as what, 3rd? I think. They are down by 20. This is my whole point. It's not isolated to you, Purdue fan, fellow Purdue fan. And it's not the end of the world. It's just not. It sucks. I agree. It sucks, but yeah, let's keep going. Jackson Boiler says, I think the loss of Mason and Ethan's locker room leadership personalities has been understated by some. Not being fired up and hyper-focused after 2 losses is concerning. Yeah, that last part bothers me more than anything. The loss of Mason specifically, I think, really hurt because he set such a precedent. Morton was a good leader and a good teammate, but Gillis he was next level guy and he was next level tough. And I think that's been tough because something that's always helped define Purdue as a team has been their toughness, their ability to take, shots and shots like physical shots. And losing Gillis was a big one. But he was at Purdue for 5 years. This is part of the game, and I don't begrudge him at all. Just for the record, I hope everybody understands that. But yeah, it's costly. There are a lot of things that are costly. Losing Lance sucked. Like, he's a really important player. And we don't talk about him. We talk about Edie every time. I do. I think about Edie first. But it's pretty easy to talk about Edie because every team in America feared Zach Edey. So Purdue TKR is an absolute mother. He is really tough to guard. When Purdue needs a bucket, it's TKR doing something ridiculous, pulling it out, going through contact, finishing around the hoop, putting up something where he gets fouled at 10 feet, still scoring. He's still great. The problem is he is not what Zach Edey was. He is not 2-time National Player of the Year. So the drop-off, that's tough. And nobody's asking TKR to be Zach Edey either. That's the other thing. But Purdue lost some parts last year. No doubt about it. I think that's your point. Let's see. Joe Inslee says, someone told me that Purdue played in the Final Four last April. Yeah, Joe. I've got proof on my wall. And yes, I think we should not discount that. I've been pleading with people not to discount that. I know everyone who is, I don't know if it's an age thing, but under a certain age seem to think you went to the final game, so now you should go every time there's a final game. And Purdue is just reload, just next year, just here it comes again. And I never thought that was the case. And I wish it were the case. So, yeah, let's go. Jack-O-Lantern22 says, how do you feel about huge ass? Well, it's tough for me. I deal with it all the time, Jay. So I don't know what that's a reference to, but I'm glad you're here. Track Dog Trek Dog Crow's Nest says, exactly, this is my team regardless of wins or losses. Love my Boilers. Keep working, keep fighting to get better. Hammer down, Boiler up. Kevin Plummer says, without a 7-2 in the middle plus, this is who we are. Well, 7'4". Edie was 7'4". Jacobson 7'4". Berg is 7'2", right? I think that and nothing against Big Willie. But I think Paint kind of hoped. I mean, let's go in the Wayback Machine, back to December, November, and Berg was in the starting lineup, right? And they were hoping that he could come in and his physical presence would be enough and he would find his groove and his ability to pop out, hit a three, would be a big difference maker and draw some physicality away from TKR. But it hadn't gone according to plan. And this team is what they are. There's no doubt about it. Let's see, who's Johnny says. Lance is a great defender. He's capable of knocking down 3 balls. He was also old. He was old. I mean, I think he was, 23? And that's a big deal in college basketball. I think that this is one thing. I know a lot of people have blamed everything on the fact that Painter didn't go into the portal in the offseason. I don't. And the reason I don't is I look around America and I see tons of teams that went deep into the portal. Again, Kansas went deep into the portal. Kansas goes into the portal. They got the kid from Wisconsin, Storr, is that his name? They paid a lot of money for him, and they are circling the drain. They are down by 20 at BYU right now. The portal is not a magic fairy dust you can sprinkle on every team to make them better. It's just not. And it's sure as hell not the way Painter wants to develop his program. Whether or not he's going to have to eventually is a different question. And I think you've dodged bullets. Guys have stuck. Everybody sticks around. This has been a great thing. I hope it continues at Purdue. But going to the portal and leaning heavily into the portal is not absolutely an answer. Getting 1 or 2 guys, sure, it could have helped. Purdue couldn't do it. Go back into your Wayback Machine. Purdue was up against the limit in scholarships. Painter decided, I'm going to go get a bunch of freshmen. We're going to develop these guys, right? One left right away, which made the scholarship situation okay. Purdue was in trouble. That's the reason Gillis didn't come back. That's the reason Paint said, time to move on to Morton. I mean, we can try to change history all we want, but it is what it is. Jeff Nestor says Auburn, Michigan, Tennessee, all doing good things with use of portal. Sure, there are lots of teams that do a lot of good things in the portal, and for every one of those, I can give you 5 that suck that went to the portal. Illinois is another team that used a lot of the portal, right? IU used a lot of the portal. Let's not go into the idea that it is a guarantee. Those teams are good. That's great. That's awesome. It is not a guarantee of success. It's not. Wisconsin used the portal very effectively. Tanjay is good. He's really good. Tanjay is exactly what Wisconsin needed, right? And I don't know who else they got out of the portal. I really don't pay much attention to Wisconsin, but I know that kid's good. I know he can score. He's been a very good fit on the program from the jump. That's awesome. But sometimes you get a guy out of the portal that sucks for your program. Or you get 2 guys out of the portal that suck for your program. I think that's Painter's biggest fear. So, sure, all these teams are doing great. By the way, Tennessee, this is what they do. They're really good in the portal. That's what they've been doing. Auburn has been really good in the portal. Michigan had to do it. They rebuilt their program, right? Michigan, though, I am still convinced. I know I'm getting ahead of myself. I know Purdue lost a game there. I still think Golden has the ability to get Twinkie soft at a moment's notice when you need him most. And I know everybody thinks this guy's a Greek god right now. It's not over for Michigan. It is not over for Michigan. They've got tough games ahead, and they still rely heavily on Vlad Golden. That is not a good place to be in. He showed that last year. If you watched them play last year, he was not good at times down the stretch. So it's not a guarantee. Chris says, imagine losing Braden Smith. Better retain him and add from the portal. I'm not going to imagine any of this stuff. I don't want to imagine any of this stuff. I think there's so many things out of Purdue's control. I think the game's a mess. I think college sports are a mess. I think Braden Smith is one of the good things around here. Braden Smith has been excellent. He was a guy that Paint went and found, and no major programs wanted him but Paint saw what he is. CJ Cox, same thing. They have both been incredible. I know CJ Cox is not Braden Smith. I'm not trying to say that. But those are both great success stories of just spotting talent. Braden Smith's incredible. He's incredible. He's been great. Shane Hinkle says, we don't need to imagine losing Smith because it won't happen. He'll be out of his funk soon. He's human. Yes, he will. I have every bit of confidence in Smith. And who knows? Maybe Purdue can hit their stride at the right time. A la team from a couple of years ago that we saw. And Purdue is guard heavy. They've got guys that can score. It is not out of the realm of possibility if Purdue hit their stride in March, April. It's just not. So, who's Johnny brings up? Bender. He'll be here next year. I'm excited about Bender. He was very good in high school. He ripped a rim off the glass, which is fun. So he's got just enough nasty in him. I'm excited about him. Pretty respectable for a guy as good as him to say, yeah, I'll take the red shirt. He's another weapon, no doubt. So, but anyway, got a little wound up there. Let's see. Who's Johnny said? Fletch hasn't had a 20-point game in a long time. He has not. Fletch has played a very patient brand of basketball in his defense this year. But sometimes he's got to not be patient. Sometimes he's got to go hunt his shot. And hunting his shot, I know he likes to do the right thing, say I'm going to drive first. But if he gets in those trees too deep, he is screwed. Not the old man game, the creativity where he does something neat, at 12, 13 feet with a teardrop or something. When he goes into the teeth of a defense, like he had a tendency to do back in December, bad things happening. Bad things. And you need a version of Fletch that is looking for a three. The problem is it's tough for him to create his own shot, and teams are very, very able to go toe-to-toe with Purdue. There's not Zach Edey pulling a double team. So, good point, Jay. Jack-o'-lantern 22. Jay says, perhaps Painter's Month has moved to March, and we didn't know. Maybe we weren't notified. That's a very good point, Jay. And I think that's the final comment of the day, because that's the best comment of the day. Either March or April. Who knows, Jay? It's good. Very, very good point. And I was not notified of such a change to things. So thanks to everybody for tuning in. Thanks for dealing with my voice. Hope it was somewhat palatable for you. I think it did get better after that first, 30, 40 seconds. I'm like a old 1982 Skylark. That was my first car. 82 Buick Skylark. Did not like the cold. Did not like getting up, getting running early. But once things got going, mediocre, just like my Skylark. That's about it, guys. God bless you. Hammer down. Talk to you soon. Purdue has lost its third straight. Hopefully they can get back on track versus IU. See you.